Okay. Today
Okay.
today is March 14th, 2026, and it is currently 8:01 a.m. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and current location for the record.
My name is Sean Swain, and I'm currently held at the Ohio State Penitentiary in Youngstown, Ohio.
Do you consent to the content of this sworn statement being made available to counsel, to courts in any pending litigation, to senators, to representatives, to members of the staff of the governor, to law enforcement and investigative agencies, and to local or national media?
I do.
It is your understanding that this statement is made under oath and under the penalty of perjury.
Yes.
Okay, this deposition is designed to recount violations of the Prison Rape Elimination Act, also known as PREA, as well as retaliation and efforts to conceal both the PREA violation and PREA retaliation undertaken by Ohio prison officials in violation of federal statute.
Yes.
You've been incarcerated since 1991.
Yes.
In that time, have you ever been so much as accused of a single act of violence against anyone?
No.
Any accusations of drugs or alcohol?
No.
Have you ever been a member of a gang?
No.
Apart from the misconduct that you allege is contrived as part of a deliberate pattern of PREA retaliation, you have a clean conduct record.
That's right.
You have taken all rehabilitative programs made available to you.
Yes.
You have your college degree.
Yes. Ashland University, and I graduated with honors.
You are a certified paralegal.
I am.
You have two vocational certifications.
I do.
You recorded thousands of hours of volunteer community service.
Yes. Most of those working as a painter at Mansfield Correctional and creating the classroom aids for teachers for the local schools.
You've written 3 books in publication.
I have. Those are available through Little Black Cart in Berkeley, California.
You contributed weekly segments to a globally syndicated radio show for 11 years.
I did.
The University of Michigan collects your personal papers and effects for an archive to celebrate your impact on American political culture.
Yes.
A collection of your songs were recorded by independent bands and posted as Burning Down, the songs of Sean Swain, on bandcamp.com.
Yes.
Your paintings and other art were put on exhibition in 2025 in Stockholm, Sweden.
Yes.
You accomplished this all from prison.
Well, not voluntarily from prison, but yes.
Let's begin now by having you recount the circumstances related to the sexual misconduct you experienced.
Okay. March 27th, 2013, I was held at Mansfield Correctional, and I had been charged with a disciplinary case. And that was entitled Mancy 12007219. That was the case number for that case. I had been found guilty of rule violations, and all of the disciplinary appeals had been exhausted. I was called into an office on that date, and I was interrogated by ODRC counsel Trevor Clark.
Was it customary for ODRC attorneys to go to the prison to interrogate prisoners?
No.
In your 35 years of incarceration, are you aware of any event not involving you where ODRC counsel interrogated a prisoner?
No.
What transpired during that interrogation?
So, Trevor Clark, ODRC counsel, informed me that he had expunged Mancy 12007219, and that whatever happened from there was up to me. At one point, when he was alone with me, he groped me with his right hand, and he indicated that there would be no further disciplinary action taken, that he would make it all go away if I simply performed certain sexual acts.
How did you respond?
Well, I froze. I didn't respond at all. I was just sort of shocked by it. So he stopped and he pointed at the chair and he told me to sit.
Did you report this?
No.
Thereafter, Trevor Clark initiated another disciplinary case as he had threatened.
Yes. Mancy 13002907. So in that case, he, by his own admission, he acted as the co-charging official. He was counsel for his other charging official partner. He was a consultant to the disciplinary panel, and he was the supervisor to the administrator who denied my appeals. So he ran that entire case after threatening it if I didn't perform certain sexual acts.
What is the significance of Trevor Clark's expunging the prior case?
Well, the significance is that's not a thing. There is no such thing as expungement. So you can look on PREA pages 0076 and 0077. That's an archive of my disciplinary cases. It says RIB Legacy on the top of that. And you'll see that Mancy 12007219 isn't there. It's as if it never existed. It's as if it never happened. And that means Trevor Clark deleted it before he came to interrogate me that day. And then he used it as leverage. He threatened to bring those charges back up as Mancy 13002907, which would be essentially retaliation for not complying with his sexual demands.
So since Mancy 12007219 no longer exists, how can you prove that you just didn't make that up?
Well, if you look at PREA page 78, that is an email from Angela Hunsinger to Trevor Clark. Then PREA pages 79 to 82 are the text of the original conduct report for Mancy 12007219. PREA page 83 is the original first page of that conduct report that Trevor Clark made the whole case disappear in. So that's the original first page before he deleted that case.
How do you have those documents?
All of those records were available through public records, Ohio Revised Code Section 149.43. That's how I got those. So I currently have over an archive of 1,300 pages that my counsel is currently archiving to make that publicly available online. I'm sharing here only a fraction of those in order to just connect the dots relating to the sexual assault and the retaliation and the cover-up.
Can the ODRC simply say the case was remanded?
No.
Why not?
If you look at my disciplinary archive, PREA pages 76, there's another case on there, WCI 18004964. That case got remanded and reheard, but the case didn't disappear. In the case of Mansfield 12007219, Trevor Clark deleted it and irregularly used that as leverage in an effort to force me to perform sex acts. And when I refused, he brought another case.
You said you didn't report the sexual misconduct.
No.
Why not?
Well, first, I didn't think anybody would believe me. And really, he groped me. I didn't melt. I didn't explode. I didn't turn to ashes. I wasn't particularly traumatized. So, within just a few minutes, I was pretty much okay.
When did you first mention Trevor Clark's sexual misconduct?
I first mentioned that in an outgoing email to Clara Duvall on April 9th, 2014, which was more than a year after it happened.
Why is that date significant?
Well, within 3 hours, Assistant Chief Inspector Paul Shoemaker at ODRC Central Office ordered all of my communications suspended, which is something Trevor Clark would later reveal to me that they called blackciting in place. So I was blackcited in place with a complete communication suspension, mail, email, and phone, everything, within 3 hours of disclosing in an email what Trevor Clark had done.
How do you know Paul Shoemaker did this?
If you look at PREA pages 4 through 6, those are email exchanges involving Paul Shoemaker. And for whatever reason, the way that they print it out, it's read from back to front, toward most recent. On April 9th, 2014, at 10:47 a.m., he specifically mentioned the Clara Duval email as the reason for blackciting me in place. And that's the email where I reported Trevor Clark's sexual misconduct.
Does federal law for prison officials to employ this kind of adverse action in response to a prisoner reporting PREA?
No. In fact, it expressly forbids it. It's the very definition of PREA retaliation, and it's pressuring a victim into silence.
Your counsel inquired about the reason for the communication suspension.
Yes, that's PREA page 1.
And the ODRC responded?
Yes, PREA pages 2 and 3 are the response, and that came from Chief Counsel Stephen Gray. Stephen Gray was Chief Counsel, and he was also the acting Chief Inspector. He was holding both jobs at the time.
At that time, Stephen Gray was supervisor to Trevor Clark, who committed the PREA violation, and was acting supervisor to Paul Shoemaker, who retaliated against you when you reported PREA.
That's right.
How did Stephen Gray respond to your counsel?
So there's a lot to unpack with this. We're going to spend some time on this because a proper understanding of this response is necessary to understanding everything that happened after. So I'm going to spend some time dissecting this. So first, Stephen Gray gave 3 justifications for shutting down my communications. Not 1, but 3. He claimed my communications were suspended because 1, I filed a false claim against Trevor Clark with the Ohio Disciplinary Council. 2, I filed a false claim against Trevor Clark through PREA. And 3, I attempted to locate Trevor Clark's home address.
Let's address each claim justification in order. What was the situation with the Ohio Disciplinary Council?
So the previous summer, I had reported Trevor Clark to the Ohio Disciplinary Council for what I believed were potentially criminal misconduct when he gave me lawmakers' home addresses during his interrogation of me. The Ohio Disciplinary Council doesn't deal with that stuff. They said that what they deal with is claims against counsel that represent you. And since Trevor Clark didn't represent me, I had to take that to someplace else.
So the disciplinary council never called your claim false?
No, that's just something Stephen Gray just characterized it that way.
Okay. Does the Ohio Disciplinary Council have its own methods for punishing someone who would make false claims?
Yes, the Ohio Disciplinary Council is under the Ohio Supreme Court. So the Ohio Supreme Court can label you a vexatious litigator.
Okay. So there was no need for the ODRC to impose its own punishment for a determination that the Ohio Disciplinary Council never made.
Correct.
And that matter was resolved the previous summer.
Yes, that was like 9 months before my communications were suspended. So it's hard to conceive that the Ohio Disciplinary Council case was in any way related to the blackciting that happened 9 months later.
Okay. The second claim justification that Stephen Gray asserted was that you filed a false PREA claim against Trevor Clark.
Correct.
On what date did you first disclose Trevor Clark's misconduct?
Uh, April 9th, 2014.
When did Stephen Gray write his letter to your counsel?
On May 9th, 2014.
When was the PREA investigation into Trevor Clark completed?
February 12th, 2019.
So Stephen Gray was characterizing your claim as false more than 4 years before the investigation was completed.
Yes. And just to unpack this a bit, so with PREA, there are three possible determinations. There's substantiated, unsubstantiated, and unfounded. In 2019, mine was determined to be unsubstantiated, not unfounded. So unfounded means they have evidence that it didn't happen. Unsubstantiated means they don't know one way or the other. So at the time that Stephen Gray called this a false claim, there was no determination made. But after a determination was made, the determination wasn't that I had made a false claim. By the way, this is important. The ODRC, under federal statute, the ODRC is not allowed to punish even unfounded accusations. So Stephen Gray mischaracterizing the claim as false doesn't make the communications suspension any more permissible. It's still a violation of federal law.
So, however we slice it, even accepting Stephen Gray's answer at face value, he is admitting to PREA retaliation in violation of federal law.
Yes.
The third justification that Stephen Gray offered for suspending your communications was that you attempted to find Trevor Clark's home address.
Right.
Did you attempt to find Trevor Clark's home address?
No. So first, prisoners don't have internet access. And I don't have a phone book. So I have actually no way to locate an address, and I really don't want his address, and I didn't want his address then. And by the way, if I had been looking for his address, I would just simply admit it, because trying to find Trevor Clark's home address doesn't violate the law. It doesn't violate the rules. And also, the only way to get someone's home address is if it's a public record. So Trevor Clark would have to essentially make his address available to the public in order for somebody to get it as public information. So if he's making it available to the public, that's on him if people get his home address. If he's not making it available to the public, I never would have been able to get it anyway. But I wasn't looking for it.
So to summarize, Stephen Gray alleged 3 reasons for suspending your communications: an Ohio disciplinary council that resolved 9 months before the communication suspension, an address search you claim never occurred, and your PREA reportage that occurred 3 hours before your communications were suspended.
Yes.
So Stephen Gray and Paul Shoemaker are both in agreement that your communications were suspended as a result of PREA retaliation reporting Trevor Clark's sexual misconduct.
Yes, that's what they both admit through these documents, whether they intended to admit that or not.
Who is the principal authority in the ODRC responsible for investigating and preventing PREA violations and retaliation?
Chief Counsel Stephen Gray.
In his response on May 9th, 2014, did Stephen Gray also threaten further PREA retaliation?
Yes. So page 2 of his answer is PREA page 3, which was sent to my then counsel, Rick Kerger. And in that, Stephen Gray threatens a whole host of further retaliations if I don't stop my quote-unquote misconduct.
And by misconduct, he meant?
Well, he's clearly referencing the 3 bullet point reasons he gave on the first page. But here's the problem here. The Ohio Disciplinary Council case had closed 9 months prior. So I can't stop something that's already stopped. And I was never looking for a home address, so I can't stop doing what I never started doing. So the only thing left that I could stop, that he wants me to stop, is my PREA claim against Trevor Clark. So when he says to stop the misconduct, the only thing that he could be referring to is my PREA claim.
So if you did not withdraw the PREA claim,
Yeah, I would face administrative charges, security and privilege level adjustments, and out-of-state transfer. That's what he wrote.
these are the retaliations he threatened in the future if you didn't drop the PREA claim.
Yes.
Did you drop it?
No.
Did the ODRC employ all of those threatened retaliations?
Yes.
What is the significance of the list of administrators who were CC'd on this letter?
Okay, so first, PREA claims are confidential. That means anybody disclosing a PREA claim against anyone, that can't be shared. You know, the ODRC isn't supposed to put this on a billboard for other people to see this. That in itself is a PREA violation. It's a violation of federal statute. And second, if you look at all of Stephen Gray's threats, he's chief counsel. He has no direct power over the disciplinary process or over security reviews or out-of-state transfers. But those people do. The people he CC'd have direct control over all of those threatened retaliations. At the time, Jay Forche had power over my disciplinary process. He was the warden at the prison I was at. Brian Wittrup was the bureau chief for the Bureau of Reception and Classification. He had power over my security reviews and over my transfers. Gary Moore was the director who could sign off on all of that stuff. So essentially what we're looking at here, by him CCing all of these people, this letter was a dog whistle. There's no valid reason whatsoever to disclose confidential PREA information to these people and then mischaracterize it as false. There's no valid reason for any of that. So all the administrators to whom this was disclosed are the administrators that Stephen Gray needed in order to carry out the retaliations he was threatening. So this letter is a dog whistle.
So do you have evidence that Stephen Gray's intended dog whistle worked?
Yes. So we go to PREA page 7. This is an email exchange from June 2014. This is less than a month after Stephen Gray's letter. And there's an exchange between Trevor Clark, the PREA violator who groped me, and Brian Wittrup, who runs the Bureau of Classification. Also, Stephen Gray is included in this, and Paul Shoemaker. And in this, Brian Wittrup says, Paul, speaking to the guy who already retaliated against me, Paul Shoemaker, Paul, let's make sure we have the out-of-state option ready to go. So Brian Wittrup is already on board with sending me out of state, and he's in charge of the Bureau of Classification who would initiate such a thing. So clearly the letter had its impact because that's what he's intending to do.
Okay.
I think we have to.
We're gonna take a break, and we'll be back to finish it up.
Thank you.